If the past few game weeks haven't quite gone your way, and of course your team structure is a little bit out of place, don't worry, I've got you covered with the ultimate wildcard guide ahead of game week 13. Now, before we dive into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As you know what, we're going to try and hit 11,000 subscribers by the end of the calendar year. It'd be absolutely amazing if we could end the year in style. So let's see if we can go and achieve that goal. First up, let's take a look at the betting data just for game week 13 individually. And then, of course, we will take a look at the 11FI, obviously looking more in terms of the next 5 game weeks for projected points. I feel both of these tools are really key for not only planning for individual game weeks, but of course planning more longer term. I'll leave a link in the description to both of these tools. Obviously, if you want to go and drop Rob T FPL a follow on Twitter or on Blue Sky, he posts some absolutely amazing stuff if you of course enjoy looking at betting projections and stuff like that. And then same with 11FI as well, with their projections, which do operate in a slightly different way from the betting market. But first off, let's take a look individually at game week 13. Obviously, the big standout fixtures for me this game week are of course going to be Brighton against Southampton. Brighton are about to go on this really long run as well, so that's definitely a fixture and a team more longer term we probably want to be looking to target on the wild card. Obviously, Chelsea as well. It's not the best fixture this week, but the form that Villa have been in recently in the Premier League, again, probably suggests that that might be a decent fixture in terms of, you know, maybe somebody like Cole Palmer, Jackson, people like that. And again, the Chelsea fixtures, I've been banging on about this for a while now, all the way up until realistically game week 29. They go on this absolutely stellar run. There's a few difficult fixtures obviously thrown in there, but then after that, it's pretty much like back to, you know, being like consistent greens and greys and stuff like that across the board. In terms of teams where it's probably not where we're going to be looking in terms of players for the next few weeks, Brentford, obviously this is probably their last good fixture on paper, so people like Brian and Mbeumo, Visser, probably not really going to be targets for our wildcard team. Same goes for Nottingham Forest as well, Aina and Chris Wood. Again, as we'll see with the 11FI data in a second as well, not really teams we want to be looking to invest in with wildcards. And obviously players, if you have got them and you're not on a wildcard and you're just watching this video for maybe some advice and player picks, again, they're probably two teams I would start to be looking kind of more turning away from rather than investing into. Arsenal are about to go on again another fantastic run all the way up until game week 19, so they're going to be a team we're going to be looking to invest in, and their fixtures coming up, especially this week as well, looking pretty decent. So maybe Saka as a captaincy option as well could also be a decent fixture. Let's head on then into that 11FI data. Starting off first with the projected clean sheets over the next 5 game weeks. Arsenal are really fancied. And of course, if we look at the XG conceded column so far this season, they currently sit second. A lot of people were saying, you know, Arsenal are bad. They're not going to keep as many clean sheets. That's some of the suggestions I was getting in like a few weeks ago from videos. You know, that's it. Arsenal are not the same team. They're not there. Well, you know, they've got a clean sheet. They're now currently sat second for XG conceded. They were about to go on this really good fixture run, and the 11FI model is really fancying them to do exceptionally well over this time period as well. So probably for me, a team I would be looking to kind of get some investment in. Obviously, with us being on a wild card as well, it does make it nice and easy. I spoke about Chelsea being a decent team to invest in with good long-term fixtures as well. So people like Colwell, if fit and available, could be a decent option, or Gusto, of course, if you've got the money to stretch that one as well. I spoke about Brighton also having some pretty decent fixtures. They've got the joint second best clean sheet odds for match day 13, and actually have slowly started to improve their defensive kind of performances, yet to kind of pick up any sort of decent, I would say, clean sheet points, but that might come over the next few weeks as well. Villa and Bournemouth could also be some decent players, you know, where we could be looking in terms of the cheap options as well from the defensive areas, but overall probably not really going to be sort of any sort of investment in there. And very similar to what I was saying around Brentford and of course Nottingham Forest, this week decent fixtures, but as we can see here, big drop-offs for both of these sides. Heading in to the projected goals for the next 5 game weeks, City, Arsenal and Liverpool kind of top that at the moment. I think City are probably going through something at the moment, and you know, we might see a decent performance against Liverpool that could get them back on track. But for me, realistically, and where this team is going to be heading, it will not include Erling Haaland. That's just a spoiler. I think all the way up until game week 18, there's probably not not going to be some game weeks where you're going to captain the big man. And I think going for a midfield trio of Saka, Salah and Palmer is going to be more beneficial. I think that's where most engaged managers are going to have that midfield free. And I think all three over the next 5 to 6 game weeks represent amazing captaincy options. That's not saying that I don't think Haaland will not score. He will. But I think with these three, you can negate Haaland doing exceptionally well over this, or like doing at least like picking up odd goals. If he starts to get, you know, braces and hat tricks, that's of course where it does start to get a little bit more tricky, and maybe this decision doesn't quite pay off. But for me, if there is going to be a period where we don't go without Erling Haaland, should I say, this arguably is looking like one of those good periods to do. I spoke about obviously Chelsea being a decent team going forward as well. Again, really, really good projected goals coming up for them. Same goes for Brighton as well on this list, as we can see, decent set. Obviously, again, building on this great fixture in match day 13. Also up against Leicester in match day 15 as well. So decent projected goals for that one. So their attackers, again, definitely going to be on the market. And as we can see here, very much what I was saying about Nottingham Forest over the next few weeks. Really, really difficult fixtures coming up for them, not only in terms of just the FDR, but in terms of the projected clean sheets and, of course, those projected goals as well. So not really a team we're going to be looking to target over the next few weeks, and probably a team we are going to start to negate away from. And especially with this wild card, not a team I realistically want to be focusing on. That was all the data ahead of the wildcard draft. Now let's dive into this team and let me know what you think of it down in the comments section. Wasting no time, let's dive straight into my Game Week 13 wildcard team. Let's start off first with our goalkeeper picks. We're going to go for David Raya and we are going to go for Fabianski. Here you've got two playing goalkeepers. Raya, as we saw with the 11FI data, really, really good numbers projected for Arsenal over the next few weeks. He's also managed to pick up quite a few saves as well. And I think the 4.5 million market is a little bit dicey at the moment, to be honest. You probably could go Verbergen if you really wanted to go down that route, but as you'll see with some of the other defenders, I think the double up on potential Arsenal defenders. Let's just dive straight into that defence then. Let's go into it. We have gone for the double up of Arsenal defenders. We've got Yuri and Timber in here at the moment. Obviously, Gabriel went down in the Champions League last night. We don't know the extent of his injury, and that is why I probably wouldn't suggest maybe putting him in here. If you wanted to go for definite secure minutes, of course, you could go for Saliba and Raya as the pair, but I think like Yuri and Timber could potentially pick up a few attacking returns along the way. His underlying data isn't exceptional, but it is more for me that 11FI data. Obviously, it's looking ridiculously strong over the next 5 game weeks, as we saw, and even past that as well. Arsenal are one of the best teams in the league, not only in terms of clean sheets, but in terms of XG conceded, not only last season, but this season as well. Currently find themselves sat in second for that one. So doubling up on the Arsenal defence seems like a smart decision to me. Next up is going to be 8 Nuri. The next 5 fixtures coming up for Wolves are looking pretty stellar. He's a player that realistically I would say you'd probably bank him more on the attacking returns rather than clean sheets. Wolves haven't been an exceptional defence so far this season. They find themselves languishing towards the bottom end of the XG conceded chart, but performances and results have started to pick up for this side, and like I said, a decent set of 5 fixtures coming up. Feels like a little bit of a no-brainer around his price point. Next up is going to be Van Heck. I spoke about it with the 11FI data. There is some decent fixtures coming up for Brighton, and like I said, they overall have improved defensively as a side. Still not keeping too many clean sheets, but his minutes seem really, really secure. Obviously, Lewis Dunk could also be an option, but playing 2 newly promoted sides within the next 3 game weeks, you would have to hope there has to be some clean sheet points in there as well. Talking about our other defenders on the bench, we've got Levi Colwell. He's in here because, like I said, that Chelsea run is exceptional all the way up until game week 29. He did go, was receiving medical treatment after the game, so maybe just 100% make sure that Maresca in his press conference comments says that he's fully fit and available for this one. Then we've gone Greaves. I just planted a 4 million defender in here. I think you realistically could, there is the budget to go for a 4.5, but I didn't want to put all the budget straight in because we do obviously have to have a plan to get back to Erling Haaland at some point with this side as well. So I think realistically, you know what, I think you could go to a 4.5. Maybe somebody like a Kirkes could be decent with some good fixtures over the festive period for Bournemouth. My only concern with that one, of course, would be rotation. That's probably where my only issue would lie with that one. Let's dive on into the midfield then. We do have Bryan Mbeumo, and my thought process with this one is this is more for the people that are taking transfers into the wild card. I think if you've not got any transfers to do, maybe Bryan might be a stretch too far, and you are booking in a transfer next week with difficult fixtures coming up for Brentford. But obviously, if you've got transfers to carry through this wildcard, I think Mbeumo could be a decent one-week punt. Like we saw with the betting data, really good numbers projected for Brentford this game week. It is their last good fixture as well. He has 2 double-digit hauls against newly promoted sides as well at home so far this season against Ipswich and Southampton. Yet to blank as well so far this season at home. So it just feels like one of those where it might just be worth one final dance. Of course, then the player I would be looking to go and get in after that would be a West Ham midfielder. Ideally, I do believe it would be Jarrod Bowen. Over this busy festive period, he will see so many minutes, is an absolutely consistent performer as well every single year in the Premier League. Despite West Ham not really looking great overall attackingly, Jarrod Bowen still is picking up decent points, and that would be my replacement. Like I said, obviously, if you've not got any transfers to take into this wildcard, probably might be worth looking at a different midfielder. But I think if you do, it's probably not worth missing out on potentially a big Bryan one last haul. Next up is going to be Cole Palmer. Now, a lot of people have been saying, Cole Palmer blanks. I had a comment in one of my videos the other day suggesting that, he's not that good. The Fantasy Football Hub points were always recommending that he's going to be some amazing player, and he doesn't deliver. If he'd have got that goal at the weekend, he probably would have picked up bonus. We'd be sat here with like a 9-10 pointer from Cole Palmer. This would be an easy pick, and I wouldn't have to explain myself, and I still feel like I don't. If we look at those projected goal numbers coming up from 11ify, it's really good across the board, and like I've spoke about already in this video, the Chelsea fixtures are immense, and I feel like Cole Palmer could be a very decent hold. The other big strong kind of selling point for Cole Palmer as well, of course, is this festive period. I've been covering it in the in a lot of my videos this week, kind of the festive build-up and the festive fixtures. There, of course, is a Champions League round this week that Cole Palmer won't feature in because, he's not in Chelsea's European squad. Then there's another one coming up in 2 weeks' time. Again, he's not in that. Then Chelsea also on in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. You can't say the same about Salah. You can't say the same about Saka. And you can't say the same about Erling Haaland. So out of all the premiums, this guy is getting extra breaks. So for me, decent 90-minute man should be able to kind of cover off a lot of decent stuff and represents a good captaincy option as well for me this week as well. Bukayo Saka currently has the armband within this wildcard team, but I think any of that kind of midfield three there could all be very viable shouts. Salah top for projected points this week, Palmer in second, but Saka has had 2 back-to-back decent games, obviously a cracking game in the Champions League last night against Sporting, and then of course at the weekend as well was phenomenal as well. West Ham are still leaving a lot to be desired defensively and actually sit kind of in the bottom half for XG conceded so far this season. Like I said, some absolutely stellar fixtures coming up for Arsenal. Again, they were one of the top teams on the projected goal 11ify model as well, so it is looking pretty decent within that regard as well. And then finally, it is going to be Mohamed Salah. The run does get a little bit tricky over the next few. City at home on paper looks like a difficult fixture, but the way they're defending at the moment, you could realistically, like I said, put the captaincy armband on Mohamed Salah. It's very clear that he probably is playing for a new contract and is playing out of his skin, to be honest. Of course, he has 8 double-digit haul returns in 12 games so far this season, which is absolutely fantastic for him. Phenomenal numbers that he's managing to put up there. So absolutely ridiculous stuff. And again, probably will be one of the most selected captaincy options this game week and going forward as well, with some decent fixtures coming up for Liverpool. On the bench, we do have Morgan Rogers. Again, there are other midfielders that you could potentially stretch to. Maybe gambling on a third Brighton player, but I don't think I would obviously look at any of their midfielders for me personally. Maybe somebody like a Semenyo, but obviously suspended for this week, so not ideal. but they do have decent fixtures coming up. But Rodgers will see decent minutes and is a good rotation option with some of our forwards as well. Let's obviously dive into our three forwards before we finish up. Let's have a look at our first one. It is going to be João Pedro, since coming back from injury, of course. 2 goals, 2 assists. The guy has only played like 6 Premier League games so far this season, but his underlying data and his XGI per 90 is phenomenal. Like I spoke about with Van Heck, of course, there are 2 decent fixtures. Well, pretty much 3 decent fixtures in a row, but 2 newly promoted sides within the next 3. We saw on the 11FI model and the Rob T FPL betting model, it's a really, really good fixture for João Pedro this week. The highest projected goals from the betting market, so I think going for him could be decent. Of course, there is the concern of rotation. Came off in the 62nd minute. Of course, has had injury issues, and the amount of quality and depth that Brighton have within those attacking areas over a busy festive period probably is the only downside to him. But as we can see here, we do have bench cover to cover off any potential bench-ins. Next up is going to be Cunha, and I don't think this one really needs any explanation, does it? The man has been on fire the past 5 game weeks. The next 5 fixtures coming up for Wolves as well are stellar, and his baseline BPS is phenomenal. If you don't know what baseline BPS is, it's roughly what a player sits on in a game before they obviously get any sort of attacking action, so goals, assists, stuff like that. He roughly sits on around 12, 13, which means if he's probably picking up a goal or an assist, he's probably heading into bonus, which is an absolute, honestly, genuinely mind-blowing thing. So if he usually gets a goal or an assist, he's probably going to be around bonus. Obviously, Palmer, Saka and Salah all fit within that category as well, but has been flying recently as well. So that one, no real explanation. Nicholas Jackson, like I spoke about with Cole Palmer and Colwell, the fixtures are immense. We saw with the 11-5 projected goals as well, decent numbers across the board. He seems like this season he's actually able to finish his opportunities, which is great. His away form is interestingly really, really good, and his home form's been a little bit dicey so far this season, so the away games he actually likes a little bit better. Of course, in 3 game weeks time they do play Southampton as well, which is an absolute stellar fixture. Of course, though, the only problem with Nicholas Jackson is the fact that he is sat on 4 yellow cards. One more, of course, does mean a suspension, and you really, really wouldn't want him suspended for one of those delicious fixtures coming up. But that is the only downside to him. Of course, we do have Alexander Isak, or if you could potentially find a little bit of money, Watkins, if you did want to keep it as a more premium forward. Of course, there are other options as well. Evan Nielsen could also be a decent shout, or maybe somebody like Delap if you really, really didn't want to go for any premium forwards and maybe upgrade a Rodgers or upgrade that defense a little bit more. Let me know what you think of this wildcard draft down in the comments section. Of course, if you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in, as I'll try to answer as many as I possibly can. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 13.